Alright guys, had a long day, kind of done some stuff on this thing. It's just such a long road to get there. I think my tool library is going to have to move. I don't know, we'll have to see. I just feel like, for the lack of better words, I wanted this thing a total enclosure, but I did the necessary, I guess, mods, I guess, if you will, to kind of keep the chips in there. As you can see, several chips, but not on the floor, which is kind of an achievement for me. So the only thing I want to update is let's see here, get focused in. Got the this has got all my parallels and such in it. Homemade 1, 2, 3 blocks. These units right here, I do want to incorporate on the mill. I think they're essentially just a laser line, and my thoughts are to not that it's really necessary, because I have an edge finder. I'm going to do XY lasers to where I have someone, basically it's an edge finder type of deal. I mean, obviously it's not real accurate, but I think that would be really neat. I have this edge finder that I bought off eBay for, I think it was $9 shipped. I mean, how they get away with that, I will never understand. I had to turn this down. I got this as the Tormach tooling type deal. Basically what it amounts to is it's just all your collets and or whatever what have you. It's all 3/4 OD. So I have you know, 1 3/4 collet. It's an R8, but I see a lot of course the repeatability, you know, is dependent on, I have just a, you know, your Tormach basically has this deal here, and then has your collar, okay? So your collar will get turned down, or your collet, I guess, will get turned down, it'll be flat, and it will locate off of that collar on this holder, okay? So for me, I guess, you know, I'm just cheapskate, but eventually I'm going to do the drawbar, the power drawbar, but, you know, in my mind, for the stuff that I do, the repeatability is essentially based on the amount of, I guess, PSI that's drawed off that drawbar, because I'm still going to locate off of, I can't see it right now, but yeah, I'm still going to locate off this collet. You know, I know that based on how far up this thing draws and clamps, that's going to be your indication as far as how accurate your offsets are. So I guess with that being said, you know, for me, I just didn't feel I could afford that, so I went with the next best thing. I just really kind of dig this edge finder, because the only sad part is it's, God, I think it was like 200 and some thousands. It wasn't like it was in millimeters, so, which essentially isn't really that big a deal. All it's doing is just you've got a current right here, and then as soon as you touch, then that's your edge, and then you just divide the the diameter in half, and then put that in your software or your home or whatever it is that you're doing. So that was kind of a nice little item that I did. I turned this down to 3/4. I think it was some odd number. It was in millimeters, but to kind of put it in with my tool library and everything that I got going on, I thought it was pretty cool that I turned it down to 3/4. So, this is the fly cutter. I need to kind of change this insert. It's flat. It needs to have it's got a nice nose radius, but the pitch of the insert really doesn't, I mean, it shows a good finish, but for what I'm wanting to see, it's not good for homemade tooling. Of course, I got the 6-inch surface mill, but I wanted that specific to an R8 collet or a R8 holder. So that one there, the draw, I'll have to do the drawbar different. I'll have to pull that screw out and then put that surface mill in there if I decide to use it. Of course, this is I forget the degree on these. These are really nice. These are just a multi-flute. I got 2 of them for real cheap. This one here. Things are sharp. I cut my finger on them a couple times. Of course, you got your this thing here. It's a swivel indexer, and then dial indicator, and another dial indicator. I think I got this one for $8. Some of this Chinese stuff is really cool, but if you can implement it into what you're doing, it's great. So all this tooling, I don't think I've covered any of this stuff, but I guess now is the time. So all this stuff here is assumed 3/4 collet, and that's what I'm using. All this tooling, I have more on the way, or I don't think a guy could buy enough of these. So my goal is to have everything that I could possibly think of set up. I think that toolbox, I don't know, the more I think about it during the day, I think the more it's going to have to be moved, just based on this, because I've got it to the point now where even the Y travel on the positive direction, I'm losing a 1/2 inch of travel, which really isn't a big deal, but the only thing that sucks is, the fact that when you're trying to grab every amount of travel that you can, I mean, this can be kind of important. So if you think about it, when I'm all the way back to the end of my table, I mean, I've got probably 2 inches of material here that I could feasibly have for travel, but in reality, once the whole back of this table sees the back of that machine, then you're out of travel. So that being said, is the only alternative is to have positive travel. Well, when I do the wall screws, I'm going to do cut out that bottom carrier, so to speak, and get a little more travel on the positive Y. So in theory, the guy would actually need to move this vise back to where, in my head, to grab the whole amount of travel that I can, this vise base right here would need to be at the edge of the table. So therefore, then I would need to move it back 2 inches. But then it would hit the column before that would apply. So it's really frustrating. There's just a lot of things that I want to achieve. This here is some switches that I got that I'm really digging. Essentially what's going to happen here is, with this controller, as you guys have seen, let me boot this computer up. Granted, I've got a touchscreen, so theoretically I don't need this, but just to say, hey, I did it, and I've got at least one more build, and I might add some more things to this build, because I'm basically running off the keyboard, but now that I've got this application, the exe file, the executable file for Windows, which allows me to change Mach 3 screen, I can basically marry any key that I want for a function. So therefore I was stuck with the default. Spacebar doesn't bother me for feed hold, but the only thing that bothered me was Alt R for your cycle start. I wanted just one button, so I'm thinking about just marrying the shift button for cycle start for this machine only. I don't know what's to come for this machine. There's just so much I've learned in the past 6 months. It's just ridiculous. So that being said, I do believe it's going to go probably here, and then I'm going to go ahead and engrave on the other CNC stop. And the reason I say that is because, let me go ahead and boot that software up. As anybody knows that they use Mach 3, they know that you can set a safe Z. So what is so neat to me is the fact that I could be in code or running a program, and I can hit reset. Here, let's turn the drive on. Okay, Z's at 0. So I can essentially, what's so cool, here, turn the light on. Or wait, do it. That was another addition. I got normal light, I got coolant wired up, waiting for the air solenoid. I've got all this stuff married via iPack. Okay, so go to program 0. That's basically rewind. Okay, no, my bad. That's go to 0. Okay, your program reset is going to be rewind. My feed up and down, I'm really digging that. I love it. Is because I can essentially here reset because I hit the drive. See that? I can turn my feed rate up via, just to prove it. See it? I can turn it up with a momentary switch or a momentary button, and that's all via that iPack. Okay, the iPack is pretty generic, but I've realized that for what we do, I think it's so cool. It's basic, and I can use the default inputs and go into my Mach screen set, whatever one I'm using, and I can basically click on every one of these buttons and decide what the hotkey is. So the hotkey, I can maybe go into the iPack and see what the default button, whatever inputs that I have left. I think I probably got 8 inputs left, and then they have a default input. So say if it's Z or whatever, then I'll go in and marry whatever it is that I want to Z, and then hook that momentary button to that input and then ground it, and as soon as I hit that, based on that screen set, that will do the necessary application that I want. So like I said, as of right now, I've got these are pretty neat, because I realized that, like I said, I'll go ahead and hit stop because it's a safe Z of 1 inch. So then before, there you go, Z is at 1 inch. So basically what that does is, if I was in code and if I hit stop, it would Z up 1 inch or whatever it is that I specify. That's what it'll do. So I just thought that was a really neat concept after a guy figured it out. I mean, obviously a guy could go, I've got it set up. Oh yeah, go to program 0. Oh wait, no, my bad. So you got program 0, but if you But what's neat is another thing that I got, see this button here? I've got it married to, so if I get the whole thing, 0 axis. Now that was cool. It was easy to do. Basically it took all the inputs. Every axis is on basically one, no, I had 3 inputs, but then I also married them to the same hotkey for every 3 input. Okay, so back to what I was saying. What I'm going to do here, I think, depending on how I like it, I just like the fact that I'm holding on to this and I can cycle start, feed hold, and also feed or e-stop all in one motion, thumb. So that being said, I think stop. If I hit stop, that'll save Z up 1 inch, and then once I hit stop, and then I can go to program 0, hit that, and then once it's up out of the material, I can go back to program home. So this one here, I think is going to go here. I'm gonna engrave stop on it, and then for me, I just felt that for reset meaning this here. I know it sounds stupid. Look at that. I can actually hit reset on the touchscreen, but for the lack of better words, loading up the control panel, I'm going to go ahead and put one right here, and I'm going to engrave it reset as well. I don't know if that's just an addiction to the whole setup or what it is, but I just think it's really cool to be able to marry so many things at one time. Of course, you have your MPG up here. Yep, we're good. So even if I come down here and move you can see everything's moving accordingly. So I guess that's what the video is kind of about. I've already talked my head off for 17 minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and shut my drive off. But another thing, I don't have this here, I don't have the power hooked up. This is just the power for 12 volt for this tack. Essentially what's going to happen is I'm going to have a little bracket. Of course, we got your Hall effect sensor right here. If I turn on my power, that will go on. Okay, and then what it amounts to is right off the spindle, probably under here, I'll epoxy the magnet on there. I don't know, but after it's all said and done, I'll have basically a shroud that covers all of this garbage that totally looks like shit. I mean, obviously appearance really doesn't matter for results, but another thing that I did here, again, it don't matter. Another thing that I did that I'm looking for the pulley, and I'll do the necessary machining. I'm gonna go ahead and do I figured out, well, 1-to-1 is plenty good for me as far as spindle RPM. This one, let's see, this one right here is 6-inch pulley, 7-inch OD. I figured if I get a 7-inch OD pulley, what will happen is I'll be able to straddle this column. Okay, so I've already taken out, the idler pulley. I wanted to do away with that, but I feasibly got the treadmill motor mounted. Looks terrible, but I think to be said, it was 5,600 RPM on the treadmill motor, and there's a speed controller, and like I covered in all videos, once all this is established, this will all be covered. All you'll see is a loom. Everything will be turnkey, and it'll be controlled on this panel. So I guess that's the point of the video, is just to kind of sum up that I got the I've finally got the executable for the screen set to be able to tweak that, and I've also got the treadmill motor figured out what I'm gonna do, and several other things. Oh, I got the Spindle Light, did several circular pocket programs on this machine over here. Had a vise. I got a vise that bolts in here. It's got its own homes as well. So that is really cool. I got the Spindle Light made out of I guess cutting board, and the thinking was, since it's plastic and white, it'll be reflective and it will just reflect that much more light. So there's that. There's that. I don't have the 3-volt indication light hooked up yet, but will. Of course, everything, coolant is hooked up. Indication light, air isn't. Everything else is. So that's about all I got. Thanks.